An update to a story we've been tracking for you out of Aiken County. Investigators say they have located the body of missing mother Jamila Smith. She had not been seen since December 2nd and has been presumed dead by investigators.
Why don't you look at your screen right here? This woman, originally from Fayetteville, has been missing since December 2nd, and now she's presumed dead. This is 30-year-old Jamila Smith.
In the dead of night, a woman's terrified voice crackled through the phone line, her whisper barely audible over the pounding of her own heart. She called 911, but the help she begged for would arrive too late. As the operator listened, trying to keep her calm, the screams on the other end grew louder, more desperate. And then suddenly there was silence. What followed was a tragedy that no one saw coming, a life lost, a case that would unravel the failings of law enforcement and the darkest secrets hidden behind closed doors. This is the story of a woman who called for help, but never lived to see it arrive. Jamila Smith was a vibrant 31-year-old woman who was loved by many. She was a devoted mother to her children and had dreams and aspirations like anyone else. Born to James Smith and Tina McCraw, Jamilla Shanae Smith, affectionately known as Millie, was a 30-year-old mother of two from Jackson, South Carolina. She was known for her radiant smile and unwavering dedication to her family. As a nursing assistant, Jamila was passionate about caring for others, a trait evident in her nurturing nature towards her children and patients. Jamila grew up in a close-knit family in Aiken County, where strong family values and deep community ties were ever present. Her family describes her as someone who always wore a bright smile and carried a positive attitude despite her challenges. Jamila had a knack for connecting with people, making friends wherever she went, and lending an empathetic ear to those in need. The greatest joy in Jamila's life was motherhood. Jamila's life revolved around her two boys, whom she adored. She was a dedicated, loving mother who worked hard to provide her children with a stable, supportive, and nurturing environment. Her devotion to her children was unwavering, and those who knew her recall how she would light up when talking about them. Whether sharing their milestones or her dreams for their future, Jamila's life centered around ensuring her children felt loved, protected, and cared for. Friends described Jamila as someone who radiated warmth and optimism. Her laughter and energy were contagious, and she could make those around her feel at ease.
Millie walked in the room, it was more so like her beauty won. You know, like, she's beautiful. Millie has always just been the little pretty, beautiful little thing. But it was like her spirit. Like, she never let nobody feel like they were less than anything.
Jamila's life, though filled with love and strength, was overshadowed by an ongoing struggle with domestic violence at the hands of her ex-boyfriend, Daniel Harmon. Jamila met Daniel Harmon, a 34-year-old resident of Beach Island, several years before their relationship turned toxic. At first, he seemed charming and attentive, qualities that initially drew her to him. However, as their relationship progressed, his controlling behavior began to surface. Jamila's co-workers noticed a change in her attitude in the months leading up to her death. She seemed more withdrawn, often checking over her shoulder, as if she were being watched. Her friends and family would later recall these behaviors as early warning signs of the danger she was in. On July 2nd, 2023, Jamila contacted law enforcement to report an incident involving Harmon. While the exact details remain unspecified, this began a pattern of escalating behavior. On August 22, 2023, Jamila called authorities again, this time involving Harmon. Despite her persistence, no significant legal action was taken. Her fear and frustration began to grow as Harmon continued to show disregard for boundaries and the law. Later that month, Jamila went a step further and sent an email to someone at the Aiken County Sheriff's Office. In this email, she detailed the escalating abuse she was facing and pleaded for action to be taken. She wrote, I understand my story may have been everywhere. However, I was in distress. Please keep me updated. I'm not from here and don't know a soul here. This was my first time ever being serious about pressing charges. This is my real life, and I was assaulted, and this below will continue to be my life if I lack the courage to move forward. Her words reflected the seriousness of her situation, and she made it clear that she feared for her life and safety. Yet, despite this written record of her abuse, no significant protective measures were enacted, leaving her vulnerable. On November 9, 2023, Jamila reported a further incident involving Harmon, a pattern that made her increasingly fearful for her safety. During this particular dispute, a deputy observed that Harmon had dried blood under his fingernails, suggesting a physical altercation had occurred. Despite visible evidence, authorities failed to escalate the charges against him. This failure to act decisively reinforced Harmon's ability to continue his abusive behavior unchecked. Jamila eventually made the difficult decision to end her relationship with Daniel Harmon. Their relationship had deteriorated into a cycle of abuse, with allegations of domestic violence that left Jamila emotionally and physically scarred. Despite their separation, Harmon's obsession with Jamila only intensified. He began stalking her, showing up unannounced at her home and workplace. She confided in friends about her fears, but was reluctant to involve law enforcement, worried it might provoke him further. Over several months leading up to her disappearance, Jamila made multiple documented calls to law enforcement, detailing threats, break-ins, and physical violence. Despite her numerous attempts to seek help, her pleas were repeatedly ignored, and Harmon was never held accountable in a way that might have protected her. Jamila's fears were well-founded. Neighbors reported seeing Harmon parked outside her home late in November. These signs painted a picture of a man who refused to let go and a woman trapped in a dangerous situation. It was reported that a close friend of Jamila's recounted an incident just days before the tragedy, where Jamila discovered Harmon had installed a GPS tracker on her car. This revelation shook her deeply, yet she still hesitated to report it, fearing he'd retaliate. The repeated calls to law enforcement illustrate a clear timeline of escalating violence and cries for help. Despite Jamila's persistence, Daniel Harmon continued to evade significant consequences for his actions. The email she sent in August, her documented injuries, and Harmon's observed behavior created a body of evidence that should have spurred immediate intervention. Yet time and again, Jamila's warnings were ignored. Unfortunately, on December 2, 2023, Jamila made a final, desperate 911 call. She reported that Daniel Harmon had broken into her home and was chasing her. During the call, the sound of a revving vehicle could be heard, alongside her terrified voice pleading for help, before the line abruptly went silent, leaving the dispatcher with little information to act on. This chilling call would tragically mark the last contact anyone had with Jamila. Police arrived at her residence within minutes, finding the front door forced open and signs of a violent struggle inside. Furniture was overturned, and shards of broken glass littered the floor. But Jamila was nowhere to be found. As the search went on, officers looked around the neighborhood, speaking to residents who reported hearing screams and the sound of a vehicle speeding away. The chilling realization began to set in. Jamila's life was in grave danger. An officer reported, "We have a possible abduction involving a female victim in her early 30s. The suspect was last seen driving a black Dodge Charger." The following day, on December 3, 2023, Jamila's family reported her missing. Jamila's family also held press conferences to plead for information and assistance from the public. Her father, James Smith, expressed his determination to find his daughter, stating, "I am asking the community, please, and understand I am not leaving here, and I will be here until I find her and bring her home." This heartfelt plea resonated with many in Aiken County, who began to rally around the family in their time of need.
Song, everything that comes along that you think about your daughter comes along, it's going to be with you day by day. So for me, I am not going to stop until I find Millie.
As part of their efforts, Jamila's family initially offered a $5,000 reward for information leading to her whereabouts. This financial incentive aimed to encourage anyone with knowledge about her disappearance to come forward. However, as the search continued without any significant leads, the reward was increased to $10,000. The local community quickly mobilized to support Jamila's family. Friends, neighbors, and concerned citizens organized search parties to comb through areas where she might have gone missing. Flyers were distributed across Aiken County, and social media campaigns were launched to raise awareness about her case. The hashtag #FindJamila began trending as people shared her story online, amplifying the call for information regarding her whereabouts. But as hours turned into days, concern grew, and the community rallied in hopes of finding her safe. The urgency to find Jamila grew with each passing hour. Still, the trail was cold, leaving her family and friends desperate for answers. Daniel Harmon quickly became the prime suspect. Authorities discovered that Harmon had a history of domestic violence, with multiple restraining orders filed against him by previous partners. Jamila's friends provided valuable testimony, confirming his threatening behavior in the weeks leading up to her disappearance. On December 5, 2023, authorities tracked Harmon to a residence on Carpentersville Road in North Augusta, South Carolina. After a brief standoff, Harmon was apprehended and initially charged with second-degree domestic violence and kidnapping in connection with Jamila's disappearance. At this stage, Jamila's whereabouts remained unknown. Still, the blood evidence found in the trunk of Harmon's car, a 2023 black Dodge Charger, began painting a grim picture. As the investigation progressed, authorities gathered more damning evidence. Forensic testing confirmed the blood matched Jamila's DNA. Investigators also recovered strands of her hair and fibers from her clothing, further implicating Harmon. Surveillance footage from a nearby gas station placed Harmon in Jackson on the night of the incident. Witnesses also reported seeing his car near Jamila's home just hours before the 911 call. By December 23, 2023, Harmon's charges were upgraded to murder, even though Jamila's body had yet to be found. This shift indicated that investigators, armed with mounting physical evidence, were convinced of Jamila's fate, though they refused to give up the search for her remains.
But to just know that another person put his hands on my daughter, another person participated in disposing her body, another person that is still not willing to talk. I wish someone would please speak up. We want to bring her home. We want to give her a proper funeral.
The breakthrough came months later, on May 2, 2024. Investigators searching a wooded area off the 2,100 block of Silver Bluff Road in Aiken, South Carolina, made a heartbreaking discovery: human remains.
She was buried, so we had to use an excavator to assist us with recovering her remains.
Days of forensic work led to the confirmation that the remains belonged to Jamilla Shanae Smith.
We have taken statements, evidence processing. There's still a significant amount of evidence that needs to be processed, electronic data, and so.
On May 14, 2024, the results of an autopsy revealed the horrifying truth. Jamila had been killed by multiple gunshot wounds to the head, a devastating end to a woman who had fought so hard to protect herself and her children. The tragedy deepened when further arrests were made. Two men, Harmon's cousin, Brian Alexander Hampton Jr., 35, and Clyde James Hendley II, 46, were charged with being accomplices to the murder. Authorities allege that both men assisted Harmon in disposing of Jamila's remains, actions that not only obstructed the investigation, but prolonged the agony for her family and community. Brian Hampton turned himself in on April 19th after being declared wanted in connection with the crime. Jamila's mother, Tina McCraw, expressed her shock, saying, "It's hurtful because we had a lot of time together, families and a lot of holidays together. We know BJ, myself, my husband, my family, and his parents. We know his parents, his children, and siblings. It's bothersome to know that he would have helped." As the pieces of evidence came together, the grim picture of what happened to Jamila began to emerge. Investigators believe that Harmon's violent confrontation with Jamila ended in her murder and a subsequent attempt to cover up the crime. As of now, Harmon and Hampton Jr. remain in custody without bail as they await trial for the murder of Jamila Smith. Hendley, who was already out on bail for previous violent felony charges when he became involved in this case, was also denied bail. All three of them are currently held at the Aiken County Detention Center. The killing devastated the small community of Jackson, with residents attending proceedings in solidarity with Jamila's family. Vigils were held in memory of Jamila throughout Aiken County. Family members spoke out against domestic violence while sharing heartfelt stories about Millie's life, her kindness towards others resonating strongly within those gathered at these events. The case became a painful reminder of the dangers of domestic violence and the need for systemic change to protect vulnerable individuals. Jamila Smith's life was tragically cut short, leaving her family and community devastated. Her murder highlighted the failure of the system to protect victims of domestic violence and the urgent need for preventative measures. There was justifiable frustration and anger over how the situation was handled. Vanessa Williams, a family member, stated, "Had they got that man off the street, Millie would be here today." This sentiment echoed throughout the community, as many felt that systemic failures contributed to Jamila's tragic fate. Jamila's family has become advocates for domestic violence awareness, urging others to recognize the warning signs and seek help before it's too late. Her children, now left without their mother, are being raised by relatives who hope to keep her memory alive. A GoFundMe account was set up on June 24, 2024. According to the family, the account was created to cover funeral costs and the resulting legal battle with the other grandparents for the custody of Millie's youngest son. As of now, the account has raised $2,795 out of the $10,000 goal set. Her family held a night vigil in her honor. Jamila's story has become a rallying cry for change, a reminder of the lives that could be saved with compassion and urgency. According to statistics provided by various organizations in the fight against domestic abuse, approximately 1 in 4 women experience severe intimate partner violence during their lifetime, often leading to not only bodily harm but emotional trauma lasting long after incidents occur. If you or someone you know is experiencing domestic violence, please reach out. Help is available. Contact the National Domestic Violence Hotline at thehotline.org. Let Jamila's story be a reminder to take action, listen, and support those in need. Thank you for joining us today to explore this tragic true crime story. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more true crime content as we continue to raise awareness of important issues affecting our communities.
Don't forget to like the video and let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any of our upcoming true crime stories.